I am gonna kill Bill.
So for over 20 years, I've known that there was a full cut of the Kill Bill movies, Volume 1 and Volume 2, together into one gigantic 4.5-hour epic that exists called The Whole Bloody Affair, and I always assumed at one point they would release it, whether it would be on physical media, some kind of special edition, Blu-ray, 4K or something, or release it in theaters, and I kept waiting and waiting, and for years, there was just nothing, like no information whatsoever. I knew that some people got to see it at like special events, or Quentin has played it at theaters or whatever, but for us regular people out there, we never got a chance to see it. And it's something that I've always been curious about. And throughout the years of it not existing, you know, you've had people that have done their own edits and put the movies together in their own way, and also people that have edited the movies in chronological order, which is actually something that I did a long time ago. I'm going to show my age here, but back when the first movies came out, when Kill Bill Volume 2 came out specifically, I remember that was, I think, the first DVD I ever bought without seeing the movie, because I had seen Volume 1 and I loved it so much that I just, when Volume 2 released on physical media, I can't remember if I had money at the time or if I had my parents buy it. I don't remember what it was, but I specifically remember buying that movie before seeing it. Watched it, loved it, of course, and there was a moment where I hooked a VCR up to the TV as well, and I would jump around and I would literally record the movies on VHS in chronological order. So I think I started with the O-Ren backstory, and then there was a deleted scene on the DVD, which is not in the full cut movie, which is a little disappointing, by the way, of Bill fighting a bunch of people somewhere on like the streets of China or something. I can't quite remember. So then I recorded that, and then I went chronologically throughout the entire movie and made my own version that I had on a VHS. And yeah, I've always been a nerd. But anyways, after 2 decades, they have finally released Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, the full cut, the full version of the movie in theaters. It's got extra bits, little extra scenes, moments, a little bit of a different re-editing. So I'm going to talk about it with you guys. You guys know the basic gist of the movie, where Uma Thurman plays a character that is known mostly as the bride, because we're not supposed to know her name until much later. And everybody at her wedding gets shot, gunned down. She gets shot in the head by Bill, but somehow miraculously survives, wakes up from a coma 4 years later, and then goes on a tirade of vengeance, writing her death list. She's got the 4 assassins along with Bill himself, 5 people she's determined to kill, and she's just going down the list one by one to try to get her revenge, and there are plenty of twists and turns along the way. This movie is, of course, a spectacle. It's one of the first times that Tarantino really put a lot of emphasis on action and the scope of what he's showing on screen, where if you look at movies like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, there's a lot of moments where the camera is just very stagnant and it's just kind of like looking into a room and you're having characters converse. There's not a whole lot of movement with the camera. There's not really a lot of setup. There's not a lot of blocking going on. It's pretty much, you know, very, very straightforward, just sort of low budget filmmaking style. Kill Bill, he decides to mostly throw that out the window, and there are so many moments where, you know, the camera sweeps over the House of Blue Leaves, or we have these really, really wide angles where we can see all of the action and choreography going on. He has influences of, you know, old school samurai films, westerns, everything that he was a fan of. Basically, he collectivized into this one piece of media. And that is kind of something that I admire, just in the sense of seeing the influences all over the place. Obviously, some of them are like directly taken, like obviously Uma Thurman in the biker uniform where she's got the yellow with the black stripes is directly referencing Bruce Lee, you know, and obviously there's direct references to like old school Shaw Brothers films with Pai Mei, and Sonny Chiba's in there. So like, and I know recently Tarantino has said a couple of controversial things. I mean, he has his whole career, let's be honest, but like recently he said things like the Hunger Games ripping off Battle Royale, but then it's like, I mean, sure, but if you look at Kill Bill, I mean, how many movies in here, are you taking from? But the thing is, like, I don't think it's bad either way, As long as you are ultimately creating something original, it's okay to take influence and inspiration from things, right? But it gives the movie a unique flair, I think. I think that the world that he creates in this film, this is kind of, this is like 10 years before John Wick, but the world of assassins and how they all kind of know each other and how their reputations all precede them, and the build up before the battles and stuff. It kind of reminds me of the John Wick universe a little bit, even though that's its own thing, and that definitely has a more intricate lore going on behind the scenes. But just this idea of sort of this fantastical world of assassins, and obviously things are over the top. People's limbs get cut off and blood sprays like old school samurai films, and there are things that characters go through and injuries that they sustain that no mortal person could ever actually survive from. But the movie takes pride in the sense that it's a fantasy, right? But the stakes are real, the danger is real, but it's a very exaggerated world, and it revels in that. And that way Tarantino can add in all of this flavor from stuff that he likes when it comes to the score, and using music from other popular films, or filming sequences in black and white, or telling the story out of order in the chapter segments that he has. This movie, if anything, taking from all of these other things, which are definitely in here, and throwing them into a blender, he does somehow manage to make Kill Bill really have its own identity. And in a way, there's really no other movie like Kill Bill. But anyways, let's talk about the differences in The Whole Bloody Affair, the full version. So first of all, the movie starts out pretty much the same, where it's that black and white segment where you see a close-up of Uma Thurman's face and Bill does his monologue. Credits happen, same thing. Vernita Green fight, same thing. There really isn't too much of a difference until you get to the O-Ren backstory. And this is the anime backstory of the character of O-Ren, which, by the way, I mentioned this in the video where I talked about Yuki's Revenge, but I remember being like 14 years old when the first Kill Bill came out and watching it completely blind. I didn't know who Tarantino was or anything like that. I just went into the movie because it looked kind of cool, and I saw an anime sequence pop up, which is something you never saw in mainstream media at that time. Like, I mentioned this in the last video also, like, nowadays you can have a Chainsaw Man movie, a Jujutsu Kaisen movie, whatever. They come out and make like millions of dollars here in America, right? But back in 2003, a mainstream movie released in the US that had a violent, gory, insane anime sequence was unheard of. And for young Ryan, that was like, at that time, getting obsessed with Ninja Scroll and Ghost in the Shell and all that shit, and the only thing I wanted was for people to respect anime at that time, because at that time it was not in the mainstream, not like it is now. And so when I saw Kill Bill have that sequence, I felt this vindication. I was like, look, there's somebody out there right now making movies that loved anime enough to have an anime sequence in a movie, and it's not some little kiddie sequence. It's literally like an assassin murdering a child's parents in front of them. It's like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is the kind of anime that you're ignoring. You think everything is Pokemon. It's fucking not. Here is my vindication. Anyways, that's how my young teenage mind thought. It is still very violent, and actually there is much more violence in the O-Ren backstory in The Whole Bloody Affair. So, if I remember correctly, so the first moment where it's extended is when O-Ren kills the gangster that had her parents killed. There's a moment where she's on top of him and she stabs the sword into his gut. In the original version, she just pulls the sword out, the blood sprays on the ceiling, whatever. In The Whole Bloody Affair, it's extended, and she actually drives the blade all the way up his body, and you see his body get ripped in half. So way more gore in this version. And there was also a little bit of extra dialogue as well when she's talking to him, more close-ups, just little things added here or there, so that sequence is longer. Now, in the middle of that anime sequence, they extend it more, and this part was awesome because I don't know if you guys remember the first movie well enough, Volume 1, when they do the backstory of O-Ren, the anime sequence, there's this guy in a white suit that actually is the one that physically kills O-Ren's parents. The gangster guy orders it to be done, but there's this guy, he's got like a pinky ring, he's wearing a white suit, and he's the one that he shoots the alcohol bottle, and then he does that like unnecessary spin kick to hit the cigarette and then, you know, blows up the building. I remember when I was watching this movie for the first time when I was a teenager, I was like, what is that guy's story? I was like, I want to see him again. Like, I hope the bride fights him. Like, where is this guy? Who is he? Well, in an added anime sequence in this version, you get to see more of him. And it was just this weird moment of being like, I actually get to see more of this character that I imagined in my mind 20 years ago wanting to see more of. And in the new anime sequence, it's animated differently. So it doesn't have the style of the original sequence. It has more of a, I guess, like a modern style. Like, to me, it looked more modern. It looked more of like a Chainsaw Man style anime. So more modernized anime version where she hunts down that guy. O-Ren hunts down that guy. She confronts him in an elevator, kills a bunch of his guards, and then they have a battle in this elevator as the elevator is falling down this elevator shaft, and his death is also gruesome, gory, violent, awesome. Really fun little sequence to see. Nice little addition. I don't know when this anime sequence was originally added, because it doesn't feel like something that would have been added many years ago. The animation style felt very modern. So if anybody knows like the studio or whatever anime studio did that, I think they did a really, really good job. The other major difference is, of course, the battle at the House of Blue Leaves. So this is the major sequence that is the finale of Kill Bill Volume 1, where the bride shows up while O-Ren and Go-Go and the Crazy 88 are, you know, in this club, and she challenges them all and fights everybody. So in the original version, in Volume 1, there was a lot of heavy censorship and editing done in order to give it an R rating. And if you guys may remember, almost the entire fight sequence of the bride versus the Crazy 88 was done in black and white. It was not a stylistic choice. It was literally done so that they could get an R rating from the amount of blood and gore at the time. Well, in this version, not only is it not in black and white, you get to see the entire fight, the whole battle in color, but you also get extended moments of the battle and extended moments of gore. Now, a lot of these are very quick because this is a fight scene that's happening, so it's hard to remember all of it, but there's definitely added moments of the bride chopping off hands. There's an added moment with that kind of younger, more timid member of the Crazy 88 that she gives the spanking to at the end of the fight. She actually fights him earlier for a couple seconds, and he puts up his hands and she kind of ignores him. So it kind of leads more into why she would like be like, again, you know, at the end of the fight, and then give him the spanking. Yeah, and getting to see the whole thing in color was fantastic. This is what, you know, I wanted to see for so many years, because I'd heard about this version where, you know, the only reason it was put in black and white to begin with was just to get around censorship. So now not having that issue and getting to see the full carnage of the full fight was fantastic. And also where Volume 1 ends is a little bit different. So in the original version, because they were releasing the movie separately, they ended on more of a cliffhanger where Bill has Sophie and he asks her, is the bride aware that her daughter is still alive, right? And that's the last line of the movie before it cuts to black. That line is not in this version. So in the full version of Kill Bill, you're actually not supposed to know that the bride's daughter survived until she gets to Bill's house at the end of the movie. And that, to me, is the most wild change of all, because that recontextualizes all of Volume 2, because if you're meant to go into Volume 2 still thinking that the daughter is dead, I mean, that changes, you know, your perception of what's coming. So that's a very interesting little change. Also, at the end of Volume 1, where the bride has Sophie in the trunk and she's saying, you know, I'm going to ask you a question, and for every question you don't answer, I'm going to cut something off. Well, we actually get to see her cut off more limbs in this version. So a little bit of extra gore there as well. So the final line of where Volume 1 would end in the full cut is where the bride says, let them know that they'll all soon be as dead as O-Ren. That's where it cuts. And then there was an intermission that lasted for like 10-15 minutes. And then it went right into Volume 2, which does not have the intro of the bride driving and saying like, you know, I've gone down my list, yada, yada, because that's just an opening to set up Volume 2. It cuts right to the flashback of the chapel, which is still in black and white. But after that moment, I honestly didn't notice any more significant changes to Volume 2. There might have been like an extra line of dialogue here or there, like when the bride is talking to Bud, but I didn't notice anything significant. Once Volume 2 starts, other than cutting out the intro of the bride driving, it doesn't really change. So Volume 2 is pretty much still just Volume 2. So seeing the movie this way was definitely an experience. It's so interesting when you have a movie that's so embedded in your mind, 20 years worth of history, and you know the movie a certain way, and you've seen it, you saw it for the first time at a very significant pivotal point in your adolescence, and like it made an impact on me. It's what got me into checking out Tarantino stuff, which is what got me into checking out a lot of his inspirations. It's what got me into checking out more Japanese cinema. You know, it kind of like steamrolled me getting into movies more and more. I've been into movies my entire life, but I think Kill Bill definitely holds a very special place for me, just in the sense that it got me very curious, because I was watching this at such an impressionable age, and he was doing things in this movie that I'd never really seen done. Like, I'd never seen an anime sequence in a movie. I'd never seen a fight scene like the House of Blue Leaves and stuff. And, you know, I'm not saying Tarantino is like the best at doing stuff like this, but because this movie exists, like because he did these things, it got me invested into finding out the origins of these types of movies. And so, like, you know, I really do have Kill Bill to thank, I think, for playing a significant role into me getting into film just in general. But also always imagining what that fight sequence would look like in full color and seeing the entire thing, getting to see an extra anime sequence in here, and just to have an event of going to the theater and watching Kill Bill for 4.5 hours. I mean, that's my idea of fun. So, like, I don't know. Anyways, yes, if you guys have seen The Whole Bloody Affair, let me know what you think about it down below. I loved this version of it. Normally, you know, if a movie exceeds like 3.5 hours, that's usually the point where I'm like, man, I don't know if it needs to be that long. But in this case, I think it was worth it, especially after, you know, wanting to see this version for so long. So if you did see it, let me know what you think down below. Oh, and for anybody curious, no, the Fortnite short is not in the movie. Anyways, let me know what you think of Kill Bill down below, guys. Thanks for watching. Give the video a like, comment, help it out in the algorithm. Could use the help. The channel has suffered quite a bit this year. Try not to complain about it too much, but I do feel like I have to mention it from time to time just to maybe help get an extra like or an extra comment or something. Or if you want to support the channel on a deeper level, I do have Patreon channel memberships. Even $1 a month would mean a lot to me. But other than that, guys, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.